All right, everybody, we're back with another member from KDK, and this time we have Prince Alex. How's it going today, man?
It's going good. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing great, doing great. I'm happy to have another member from the squad on for another chat, another interview. Um, so yeah, as we said, you're with KDK and everything, but before we get into the dynamics of that group and just your story as a music creator, is there anything that you want to promote to everybody?
Well, I'm working on some new stuff right now. I'm like testing out this microphone that I got. Right now, I don't have anything necessarily announced, but very soon stuff is going to be coming up. So I'd say just the KDK channel, the Just Another channel, and my Instagram is Royalty Prince Alex. TikTok's Royalty Prince Alex. So that's where you can find me.
Okay, got it. Yeah, and I'll make sure to include links to all your socials and stuff once we
All right.
post the video. Yeah, so yeah, let's hop into it. Obviously your name is Prince Alex, but want to tell everybody where you're from and what you do as a music creator?
Well, I'm here in South Carolina. I'm Puerto Rican, and as a music creator, I've been actually doing more producing than actual like rapping or writing or anything like that. I'm looking to get back into it, but lately my new role has just been coming up with beats for future KDK songs.
Okay, gotcha. So, it sounds like you do produce and rap, but let's like just take a step back. How did you get into making music? Like, what was that initial story for you, and what did you start with? Producing, rapping, playing an instrument? What was it?
That's actually a really funny story. So, I mean, I've always wanted to make music, but I just never really had the resources before until I moved down here and I met Amdrag. I was invited to a house party of his, and they had a karaoke machine. So I hopped on, I sang a couple songs, and things started clicking immediately when that happened. So I would come over to his house a lot, like when he was just getting started. And I started out with rapping. He gave me like one or two beats that everybody was jumping on in the early stages. And I just kind of went along with it. I was just along for the ride, and they really liked what I did. So that's kind of how I became a member. And from there, we started doing more songs. Then Amdrag started showing me actually how to use the software that we use. We use Fruity Loops.
Hmm.
And so like it took a while, but I started getting good enough where he was able to get it installed on my laptop. So now I can work on my own. I don't need him with me to make beats anymore.
Okay, gotcha. So, if I remember correctly, KDK has been kind of a group for maybe 2 years now. Is that about right?
I'd say, yeah, like 2 or 3 years,
Okay,
maybe four, but that might be pushing it a little bit.
gotcha. And so, how long have you then been creating music?
About the same amount of time, yeah. I moved down here to South Carolina about, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago. And it was about a year and a half after I got here that I started working with KDK.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, as far as working with KDK, and obviously, like y'all are friends, seems like first and foremost, but you know, would you say would you say there are any benefits from being a part of KDK as a group as a music creator? Or what are some of those things that you would call out?
Yeah, there's definitely some benefits. I mean, I get to learn new tricks and stuff from Amdrag. I get different perspectives, like from Tron and Tomas. I'd say the best benefit is just having different perspectives, giving feedback. You know what I mean? Because some people, they get into their own heads about stuff. They make something and they put it out there, and it's like, why did you think this was any good? So it's always nice to have somebody look at your stuff objectively, and then they get back to you and be like, hey, this was really good, or hey, you should probably change a sound here and there just to make it sound better.
Gotcha. So, I mean, not to put you on the spot, but I guess I am. Can you like give me an example maybe of like, one of those times where, they gave you some advice or some feedback that really helped out?
Yeah, I think definitely when I was starting out with producing, that's when I needed the most feedback. And I definitely welcomed the feedback because I was very much a novice in the beginning. So I'm doing better now, but I definitely needed help with like, how to tighten up mixing, tricks on how to make kicks sound better, or, using multiple snares to get unique sounds, things like that.
Okay, gotcha. And so is it usually Amdrag that helps you with that production side? Is he kind of like your go-to?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. We usually like we get together a lot for recording, especially before COVID started. We were always like getting together and we were recording together. So he was always showing me different things, and as a result, we ended up on a lot of each other's early projects.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, it's awesome, man. Like how often are you working on music nowadays?
Well, it depends, really. I mean, music is not my only creative outlet, so I kind of split back and forth between. I like to write novels. I write fiction stories as well, so
Gotcha.
that's like a whole different animal.
Wow.
But I switch back and forth between writing and music. So if I'm having trouble with music, then I'll go to writing. If I'm having trouble with writing, I'll go to music. So I'd say I'm working on something like every week, something like that, maybe every 2 weeks. Just depends on how I'm feeling. If an idea comes to me, then I'll sit down and I'll try to get out at least a demo instrumental.
Okay. Yeah, gotcha. So, you're just a generally creative person. Maybe, I already asked how, starting music that started for you, but what would you say was like your first, really creative interest? And if that interest was writing, when did that start for you?
Uh, I'd say, yeah, it probably was writing. Because I had an interest in music since before I started writing, but I just never really was any good at it. Like, I had some guitars and I had a keyboard and stuff like that. So I would mess around, but I couldn't really take it seriously because I couldn't get lessons and I didn't know how to read sheet music or anything like that.
Hmm.
So, writing came about, I'd say 7 or 8 years ago. I was in middle school where I would play like video games and stuff. Like Sonic the Hedgehog was my favorite video game growing up. And I would sit there and I would play the games, and sometimes I would get confused by the stories, or I'd have to play the game multiple times to understand things. And so there was always a part of me as a kid that was like, I could do something better than this, or at the very least on par with this. Like I could write my own storyline. So then when I was in, let's see, it was the summer after my seventh grade where I was just like, let me just try writing something. So I started out with a Sonic story, and very quickly I found that it was a lot of fun. Like I was writing one chapter every single night during that summer. And so I just kept writing more and more stories, coming up with more ideas, tightening it up. I definitely say that I'm a better writer than I am musician.
Gotcha. Yeah, gotcha. Do you ever see any maybe crossover between the two? I know that you're kind of more into the production now, but maybe when you were rapping, like I don't know, telling stories in raps or anything like that, like any.
Actually, yes, that has happened. Um, it's ironic because a couple years before I started making music, I wrote a couple stories about, famous people, what the kind of stuff that they go through that you don't think about, what their process might be like, especially as an independent artist who makes all of their own stuff. Like I wrote about that first, and then I started experiencing it later on. So I started to see some things that I got right, some things that I got wrong. I've written a couple different stories in my raps. Not all of them have panned out. Certain ones I'll just write kind of like poetry ish about stuff that I've been going through. So it definitely has, one definitely does feed into the other for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's awesome, man. That you're have so much creative energy flowing through you. That's yeah, I love to hear it. Yeah, I guess in closing, I guess for anybody out there that kind of has those multiple creative outlets like you do, especially one being music. Is there any like words of wisdom that you could give to kind of say how to balance those things out and you know just kind of maintain that, right? Like you like doing both, and you want to kind of focus on both. Any tips you could give?
I would definitely say, you know, you're going to get frustrated quite a few times when you have multiple creative outlets and you've got a lot of stuff to balance. I'd say definitely you want to get the important things out of the way first, things that you need to take care of in life. And just as you're going about your daily activities, just have it in the back of your mind. You know, I'm always thinking about what my next chapter is going to be or what my next beat is going to sound like. And so just when you get the chance to, or when an idea pops into your head, you know, just record it on your phone. You can come back to it later, let it simmer, and then definitely don't try to rush it for sure. If you try to push it when you're not fully into it, it can be, it just doesn't come out as good, you know?
Yep.
It's never as good as when you allow it to just flow normally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes absolute sense. Well, again, thanks for hopping on, and it's been great, getting to know KDK on these interviews. I mean, all y'all are just awesome, doing super cool stuff. So, yeah, I hope we can, do more things in the future and everything.
That sounds good. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to when the video's done.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, let me know if there's ever anything I can do to help you out, and yeah, have a good day.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. Thank you, man.